All right, guys, Andy Wood here with JamPlay, and we're going to be talking about cross-picking. This is a super hotbed topic for me right now. I get tons of emails, direct messages, questions about the technique. The technique is just really elaborate alternate picking. The term cross-picking comes in because you're crossing over a string on, let's say, the return trip. So you're transcending through 3 string sets right there, or 3 strings. But once you get to the B string, you jump back down to the D. I'm going to play just a really basic cross-picking idea. I have 2 G notes ringing out. Here it is slowly. Now if I put in, let's say, a minor third, start seeing how this has this lush Balafleck banjo type of tone happening to it. I hear this a lot growing up, and it's found its way into my playing. The tune that I talked about in the alternate picking lesson was Whiskey Before Breakfast. The opening line to the B section is a 4-string cross-pick lick. One more time, slow. So you see I'm hitting this pull off. There's an upstroke, down, up, down. So I'm alternate picking everything, but the notes fall where there's one note on each string. You get it a lot with triads, various chord shapes, even up to 6-note string sets. So the point of cross-picking is, and the difficult thing that we need to address is how to comfortably jump from one down to the bottom. Now, over the past year and a half, I've had a lot of people dissect my right hand playing and tell me that one of the things that's happening is the hand isn't playing completely even straight down like this. Like when I do those slow, it's far more like even motion going up and down. In reality, when I'm doing it at tempo, there is a jumping in and out effect that's happening with the thumb. Okay, my thumb is pretty locked right there. So the order we're going is DGB, DGB, DGB. Now when I hit that B string, I have to jump over the G to get back down to the bottom. What's happening is I've got one note per string, okay? And I'm alternate picking. And it's an odd number of strings that I'm playing. So one note per string, odd number, even number, right? So what happens is you have down, up, down, up, down, up. There's no rest between those two, right? So you're down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. But that's happening over an odd set. So your hand is inverting. This is one of those, I always compare it to the thing you do as a kid when you're trying to pat your head and rub your stomach at the same time. You can look at somebody do it and be like, oh, that's super easy. But it's deceptively difficult if you're not used to the technique. So take any triad. For argument's sake, we're playing G with an open G. Due to this being a country lesson, this is a very common sound. You'll have that. My song Shred Next starts with that. So, that's all we're trying to accomplish. We're just trying to get to where we can play through the 3 string sets with the inverting pick stroke to where you're going down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, right? That is the goal in this lesson. Even that tempo is going to be a bit ambitious if you're not comfortable with alternate picking and cross picking. So break it down to where you are playing it at a slow tempo, but the pick strokes are correct. Your most common problem is you will habitually go for a pick stroke that feels right, that's incorrect to the technique. Remember, you're always doing down, up, down, up, down, up, just like alternate picking, except you're doing it now with one note per string. The great thing is you can move this shape throughout any triad in the key of G, and you can start building little etudes or whatever. So continuing on with cross picking, now you've spent some time really woodshedding that constant down, up, down technique through the odd string sets, right? So you can play 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Now here's where it gets interesting. I want you to be able to command the timing and be able to jump back and forth between two string sets within cross picking, as an example. That's what we were doing, right? Here we go. So you start hearing this rhythm. We're filling in the gaps with the cross picking. Slow that down. So you see that we're having down, up, down, right? And at one point we have, so we're going inside, inside, back to cross. That'll be a challenge to those that are new to the technique. That's going to be the sticky spot, especially when your hand has integrated the idea that it only plays DGB, DGB, DGB. The point of this is to make your body and your right hand and your mind okay with the idea that we are not married to an order of notes or an order of strings. We're trying to free the right hand of patternistic handicaps, right? So we as guitar players, we fall victim to being like, oh, here's the pattern, here's the pattern. How many times have you watched a video and heard the words, here's the pattern, right? So when you're trying to improvise and you're trying to apply this stuff to your own playing, these aren't limited to country. These are country-based techniques that I use in fusion and rock and whatever. They bring something new to the table in those other genres because it's not a lot of stuff that's happening like that over there. When you're applying this, move through the different triads like we talked about. Here's A minor. You know, you add a little bit of distortion. Let's add a lot of distortion. Yeah. So the fact that we're using a very minimal overdrive in a Telecaster style guitar, that with a drop tuned guitar on a low A detuned 7-string, that can sound really ferocious. What you need to do with any technique, any application of technique, is you need to focus on the minute details within it. These are just examples of how to use it. The most finite point being, am I getting every note clean? Is my right hand truly free when I change the rhythmic aspect of the whatever I'm playing? So if we have, and we change to, there's another rhythm pattern. So you can see that I'm taking just one note on probably what is the most basic A minor triad on the guitar that we all know and love, and we're trying to breathe new life into simple harmony by using a complex right hand technique. Some palm muting can go a long way in articulation. If you're looking for that clean channel, open rolling sound like this, or if you're going for that really tight Steve Morse kind of thing. So as you work on this, just try to take things at a slow tempo, and remember that as you're cross picking, you need to have a definite point. I recommend a metronome or just a drum loop on your computer or whatever to give you a sense of where the downbeat is. I'm starting all of these on the lowest note of the triad, just for example's sake. It doesn't have to be that way. You can start any of it on any point. The point is the freedom. So expanding into cross picking, now from the basic to now we're starting to mess with the rhythms and add notes to the top. Okay, so we're still on 3 strings. So now you've got your cross picking, your simple 3-string shapes. You've got it to where you're moving the rhythm around and the accents. What I hope you've done, and if you haven't, that's okay, I hope you've put that on other string sets. This is not something just to be played on the D, G, and B strings. That's just where my examples have been. It can go on every string set. It can go on the highest strings. Sparkly kind of tones. But now we're going to add even more to the equation. This time we're going to talk about 4-string cross picking. What's cool about this is now as you cross the 1 note per string thing, the alternate picking thing, now we're doing an even number of strings and you have an even technique, right? So you have down, up, right? And that's conducive to the right hand. What this is going to do is be a little tricky because we've been doing the odd thing. The reason mixing it up throughout these little these lessons is to constantly change the variables. That way you're ingraining in the right hand that anything in any order as far as alternate picking is okay, and with a little practice it can be achieved. So with 4-string cross picking, this would be very familiar to you Dixie Dregs fans and Steve Morse fans. He was a master of this stuff. Kind of changes the time feel a little bit. You can hear it instantly, turns it into like triplets. So let's take just the simplest shapes. We're not going to worry about exotic harmony, even though you can if you want to. If you want to play big minor 9s, you can. And that's a really cool sound. So let's just take a simple shape of D. Here's D. And this one is a bit tricky in the right hand playing. It's one of those things it's easy to describe what to do, but it's hard to feel what is correct when you're doing it. I associate it with like riding a bicycle. You can tell someone to get on the mic and just pedal and you'll balance and be upright. But until your body internalizes what that feeling is, then you don't know what it is. So with this technique is going to take some time sitting with your guitar and playing four note chord voicings and playing 1 note per string, alternate picking through it until you finally start to feel what's happening in that right hand. So when I'm playing slower, there's a lot more motion in my right hand. Not emotion, motion. There's a lot more motion in my right hand. There's more swing into the notes. You can actually see how much like typewriter-y style bounces in my hand. I speed it up, things get, the motions and the economy of motion, everything gets a little smaller. Now that doesn't equate to feeling tense in your forearm or in your bicep or in your shoulder. That just equates to accurization, like aiming at the correct string and making sure that every motion in the right hand is going to the correct place. You can almost see my right hand, like when I start to speed up, you can see how it locks in. This is a tricky technique. It's going to take a lot of time. It's something that looks easy. It sounds extremely lush and rolling, and to get it under control is going to take a lot of work. This is something I worked on a lot in my life. You know, finger picking guys have an advantage where they're playing one note per string with each finger. Us alternate picking guys, especially guys maybe grew up with the Allman Brothers or something, like this is a really foreign type of sound and a foreign type of technique. But I found it really nice, even on acoustics and stuff for backing up singer-songwriters. It's a nice way to arpeggiate things. It's really great in fiddle tunes. It's great to add color to maybe a heavy song. Like if you got a heavy song that's chugging along, you know, and you need something to give that F some color in the background, you can have maybe you know, and it kind of adds this textural thing. So I find that cross-picking sneaks its way into playing and adds a new dimension to your playing, especially in that four-string sound. It sounds, you know, piano-esque or something. So definitely work on your accuracy. Going all the way back to our alternate picking lesson, the thing you need to work on and be aware of is the similar things you needed in that lesson, whereas the down-up transitions from string to string. That's really the key to really great alternate picking, is being able to transition from string to string without that relying on basic 3-note per string patterns. That's what, like, the common thing we see guitar players play, and it's the familiar sound. Those are just static notes that don't require the right hand to invert any directions and essentially throw a wrench into the picking pattern. Like once you've got one string, you just move it to the other strings and up the neck, and you're off to the races. So the things I'm talking about fundamentally are mechanically more complicated, and so they require more time and more effort. So don't let it get you discouraged. Just be aware of the small details, and you'll be doing this stuff in no time. All right, guys, I'm Andy Wood. That is a ton of information on right hand technique, alternate picking, cross picking, all those things that work together, and we'll see you in the next lesson.